Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. Tonight we talk about the depth chart that just got released prior to this show, among some few training camp buzzwords that are going around. So grab your Lake Monster beer and join us for a fun show tonight.
Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings. Skol!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. I am your host, Matt Anderson, and like every week here on this show, this is sponsored by Lake Monster Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota. Tonight, we're down one man. We kind of keep swapping every week. We haven't quite had the full crew yet, but Ryan, our co-host, is here this evening. Miles is off for the evening as his wife has a birthday today, so good for him. I hope they're celebrating. Ryan, you missed a fun show last week, but how are you doing, and what are you drinking?
Drinking some Lake Monster beer here. Depth Charge, I think, is the one I'm drinking tonight, which you turned me on to. I don't usually like those hazy IPAs, but this one's delicious. So,
I love Depth Charge.
Yeah, I actually tuned into the show last week. Well, after the show, I kind of fell asleep to it. It was a great show. You, Miles, and Eric did a great job. Pretty bummed out I missed it, but got to play some softball with some buddies, which is good. And we did a little celebrating after since it was the final week. So it was a good time.
Did you win it all?
No, we did not, but that's okay. That's all right.
Brutal.
We had fun. We had fun while we were doing it, so that's all that's important.
Well, we did tell Eric, I know you're sad you missed Eric last week, but we did tell him now that In the Huddle isn't a thing this season, that we'll make sure his appearances come on this show. So there's more to come from Eric. Dave.
Yes.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. We're getting a cool front. We're going to be in the 90s tomorrow, upper 90s. I'll be happy.
Fair enough. All right. Well,
90 degrees sounds literally awful. I was hating today, and it was like 82. I'm like, oh, this is too hot.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, where are you at right now? That's not your normal hangout.
This is not my normal place. It's a pretty cool room, actually. If we could swap out some of the pictures with some Vikings gear, but I'm up in the North Shore this weekend with my in-laws, so still doing the show. I think there's a lot to talk about still, so we've waited long enough to get to this point. So any opportunity we can hop on and talk. I didn't want to cancel the show. So, and it is very cool here by the Dave. I think it's like 70 out right now, maybe.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and we're right on 71 degrees. It's going to get down to 58 tonight. So that's my favorite type of weather.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get right into it. We had some fun, eventful news to talk about with the Vikings. As I told Ryan and Dave pre-show, I have not looked at it, but the Vikings released their first official depth chart. So we'll talk about some key takeaways, anything that we're noticing in that. Like I said, I haven't looked at it, so everything's going to be a little bit of a surprise to me. But Ryan, your first reactions to the first official Vikings depth chart?
I don't really think that there's too much that's shocking, I think, about this depth chart. Maybe one, and I'll go into that in a second. It's pretty typical for these NFL teams to be able, or to really want to force their hand to be able to put those rookies in the first string. I don't believe we have any rookies that are listed as first string, which is a bit surprising in the Lewis scene. category. Just you thought that maybe he would overtake that right away. Seen as listed, at least as of today, as a second string. But again, we've talked a lot on this show and other climbing the pocket shows that we're likely going to see a lot of three safety looks anyway. So Cam Bynum, Harrison Smith, Lewis Cine are all going to likely be kind of considered starters in general anyway. Um, Andrew Booth is technically CB4 just because I think Chandon Sullivan occupies that nickel spot.
That is
And
correct.
Ed Ingram is our other second round pick, is listed as the second string. Now, again, today I hear a lot on Twitter. I wasn't able to attend, but from Vikings camp, there was a lot of steam around him running with the ones today over Jesse Davis. At times, I think they're interchanging back and forth, but he did get quite a few looks at right guards with the ones today, which is obviously a welcoming sign. I can't remember. I think it might have been Deshaun from Climbing the Pocket here who had mentioned, we gave Jesse Davis decent money,
Yeah.
really money to come in here and start. I mean, that was the expectation. And now that we have Ed Ingram really forcing their hand to give him some reps with the ones, must mean that he's doing really well if he's able to kind of, push for that one spot. Asamoah was listed as a second stringer, which I was actually surprised. I
Take your
thought,
lap, buddy.
well, I know that he's been like Blake Lynch had a run with the one or with the twos. Chaz Surratt, I think today was running with the twos at certain times, and Blake Lynch. So I think they've really been interchanging that. So I thought it was interesting that they put him in as the second string weak side linebacker. But that was
Yeah.
cool for me to see, of course, as what I'm doing here. And then Evans, our fourth rounder, I think it was listed as a third string. So he's coming off that injury, so we'll kind of see how he's doing. But so I mean, no real big surprises. I thought maybe Nailor would be a little higher. I think he's one of those, and I know Dave's going to talk about this in a minute. He's one of those or people that's on the depth chart, meaning what I assume it means is they haven't decided who they want to put in that spot as wide receiver 6 or QB2 when they have that or designation. So, but yeah, outside of that, again, not really any big surprises. Pretty status quo. And again, it goes to show how fluid these depth charts are because Ed Ingram's already running with the ones, even though as of today he was listed as a second stringer. So
Yeah.
it's going to be very fluid. I don't think the listeners here today should be taking too much stock into this. There's going to be plenty of time for some of these rookies to continue to push for those starting spots or premium backup spots and other players who weren't like as high profile as rookies to try to earn their spot on the team.
So I agree with you, and I just quick looked through it. I agree with you on most of it, like not to take any stock in it, but the fact that they put the or between Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion is, I don't know, like Sean Mannion's a vet in this league, and granted we've seen him play, and it's not anything spectacular, right? We saw him in
Brutal.
Green Bay last year. It's pretty brutal. It's from what we've heard, it's mainly in the film room, and in the quarterback room where he's an asset to a team. But it is shocking to me a little bit that they still couldn't make a distinction. I don't know if we've ever seen the or aspect of it, but to put Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion as almost equal playing ground, I think speaks highly of Kellen Mond. At least that's how I interpret it. It speaks highly of Kellen Mond and less so of Sean Mannion. Dave's already laughing.
You could look at it the opposite way. It speaks lowly of Sean Mannion.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
view,
yeah. from what I've heard from training camp, I don't think either have been very impressive. So I don't. Yeah, I think this is more maybe a slight at Mannion, or even maybe a
Is
slight at Mond, given how bad we watched Mannion play last year. Um, yeah, I mean, but again, also I think they need to see these guys in live games, which we'll see on Sunday.
is Mike Zimmer vindicated based on this depth chart and what we've seen through training camp of Kellen Mond? Because
Yeah,
remember, if we go back to week 17, everyone was, and I'm kind of taking this a different course here, but we'll come back. But everyone was like freaking out on Mike Zimmer. Play the starter or play the backups. Why why aren't you putting Kellen Mond in? And Zim's like, I've seen all I need to see of Kellen Mond. I don't need to put him out on that field. And I guess to your point, Dave, based on what we've heard in training camp and having the or next to Sean Mannion, I guess I could see it in that light that, you know, he's not doing that good. We've seen what Sean Mannion is, and Kellen Mond can't even beat that. So I guess, I guess in my mind, and this comes from a Zimmer stan himself, but Zimmer's vindicated for not playing Mond in week 17. Do you guys agree?
no,
Not yet.
What? Why not?
I'd
I,
give it to
I
preseason.
Well, and again, it's not a vindication, or like you should be vindicated in that situation. He still made the wrong call. I don't care if Kellen Mond is the worst quarterback to ever play. You had to, like, in that moment, you had to see what you had in that moment. Like,
No,
granted,
I
like because
disagree.
we no, I mean we could disagree, and that's totally fine. You knew that Sean Mannion wasn't anything. You weren't. I mean, obviously they see Kellen Mond in practice every day, like he had said. So it's not like they don't know what they have in him. But you should have given him that opportunity to play live reps with with against a team in a situation where it didn't really matter anyway. We knew we were going to lose regardless. So why not see what you had in your again third round rookie quarterback? But yeah, that's my mode of thinking. I would assume Kevin O'Connell probably would have made the same call last year as what I'm thinking, just knowing his kind of personality from what we've seen. But I could be wrong, because if they choose to keep Mannion over Mond, or keep Mond at third string, then I'm wrong in that situation. So
Dave, I know I haven't let you speak quite yet. So I'll ask you this question, and then you can give your thoughts on the whole overall topic. But do you think the Vikings carry three quarterbacks this season?
Not all three that are presently on the roster. If they do,
Because we have a comment in the chat talking about talking about Blake Bortles, which I mean, fantasy god Blake Bortles himself.
and Blake Bortles knows the system. Blake Bortles, if you're talking logically, um, is the person you'd go after. As much as I'd like to trade for Garoppolo or Gardner Minshew, as possible backups, Bortles makes the most sense because he already knows the system. Anybody you bring in now is going to take time to spin up. You don't want to bring in somebody. Kirk's knee explodes, and let's hope it doesn't. But say it does. Then you're out on the market looking for somebody, and you're
Yeah,
paying way too much for him. But you're going to have to change the offense to whoever that guy is, unless he already knows basically the offense. And the only one out there that's feasible is Bortles. So,
or Kellen Mond.
well, and
I
that's
mean, and let's just call a spade a spade. If Cousins goes out, we're not competing. Like
yeah,
we're
we're not
not a
going to
good
win
enough
as many.
team without
No,
him. Like, and I guess that probably is like a kudos to Kirk. Like, I know he takes a
oh
lot
yeah,
of he takes a lot of crap from all of us fans here. But we do. I think most fans know that without Kirk Cousins, this team is garbage. So
It's his
um,
greatest asset is his durability. Like
it
is
the
has
fact that
been
well,
for
and he's a good quarterback. Like, I mean, he's a very
right.
good quarterback. Like, this isn't. I'm not trying to like beat around the bush. Like, he's a good quarterback, and without him, like the downgrade from that is significant. I mean, unless you bring in, I mean, there's no quarterback that's going to be tradable that is of that caliber. There just isn't. I mean,
Garoppolo's close.
Yeah, yeah, sure, but that's another 25 mil in the books. Like, you're not going to do that. But you take a look at like a guy, I don't know, like guys that would be available. Sam Darnold, for example. You don't want to bring 18 million on the books, but like he's bad. Like the difference between Kirk and Sam Darnold is significant. PJ Walker, the same thing, right? So if Kirk's not playing, we're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to the
big deal I had over this when they put it out, and it's put out by the editor of Vikings.com, Craig Peters. This is the first time I have ever seen or ever remembered seeing the use of the word "or" and have it capitalized, no less, for emphasis. And it's used twice in there. The big one is quarterbacks, where it says we have either Kellen Mond or Sean Mannion, right?
Yeah.
And Kellen Mond was listed first, by the way. That does make a difference. It does make a difference.
It was.
Do you think so?
A big capital OR. That is unusual. That's weird. I'd never seen that before. And then when you get down into the wide receivers and you have between Trishton and Nailor, and it's Trishton or Nailor, and it's like, one, it's weird to see. Two, does it indicate a cut line? Are the Vikings telegraphing already that they, one, want to keep only 2 quarterbacks on their roster, and they want to cut the wide receivers at that, I think it was 6 wide receivers down at that point? And if so, why are they indicating that now?
Dave, you might be onto something. I didn't think about that, but you might be onto something. We might already kind of see the roster structure taking place, and just like, we're obviously overanalyzing the ors, but is that their cut line for positions?
I mean, yeah, it definitely could be. They didn't do it through any other position groups, which is the only other thing, which is weird. I guess one of the surprises on that was the wide receiver depth. Myron Mitchell was ahead. Well, it was like, I think, wide receiver 6, I want to say, behind the core 4, and then we had BC and Mitchell. Over Trishton, is it Tristan Jackson? Is that how you say his name?
Tristan Jackson.
Yep.
And then Jalen Nailor. And all I'm hearing, again, from people at camp that I trust, that Jackson is just tearing camp up, and BC is tearing camp up, and Nailor is tearing camp up. And I haven't heard one lick about Myron Mitchell.
Right.
When did we become a I don't know, like a wide receiver, like, I don't know, I felt like we paid. Yeah, like it's kind of crazy to sit here and look at these wide receivers, and we have a plethora of them at this point. I feel like.
Well, I mean, how many of these are like high quality? How
right.
Many of these are high quality?
Yeah, it's but they're higher quality. I mean, we've been running whether it was Thielen and Diggs or Thielen and Jefferson, and then everybody else behind them for the last few years was named Chad Beebe, and we didn't know, Chad Beebe wasn't that good. So, I mean, there was a lack of talent back there. Now we're at least comforted that a lot of these guys, once you get behind Jefferson, Thielen, Osborne, which has locked up wide receiver 3, then you get in the battles for the 4 and 5s, and the 4 and 5s, you're switching between a speed guy and a possession guy, which is cool because they're going to rotate in. And then we've got a quality 6, 7 guys that could possibly move up too. And it's like, we haven't seen that in probably, since Zimmer took over?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, honestly, I don't really remember. Because, I mean, we had Thielen, Diggs.
Well, Zimmer's first year here.
We had
it
Thielen,
was Wright and Wallace.
that was a good trio. Those three,
Mm-hmm.
Thielen, Diggs, and Jarius Wright.
But
And this is
Jarius Wright
by
was
far
more
the
the
best trio
possession.
since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jarius Wright was more neglected, but he was needed when his possession needed a first down. You could count on Jarius Wright.
Where
Jarius
I'm
Wright
very
was clutch.
comfortable 4 deep right now. I'm very comfortable with obviously our core three, but then Smith Marset. I hear he's taken like another step forward this year. Not just as a speed guy, but kind of rounding out his game too. So it's very encouraging for us fans.
Yeah. Any final takeaways from the depth chart? I think Ryan called out a big one, right? Not really any rookies in the starting lineup, and I think that's fair. Yet, right? I think that's fair though.
Now, question: which of the rookies is going to start first?
I think Ed Ingram.
Ingram?
Yeah, I think Ed Ingram
And
is a
Lucine.
good bet based on I would actually say Booth Jr. overseen at this point.
The only way I can see him starting is if they put like Pat Pete in the nickel or something, because I'm not there. I'm not watching camp every day, but like Luke Braun, no, I think it was why am I drawing a blank on his name? Anyway, somebody had mentioned that Dantzler has put together like 4 incredible days in a row,
Mhm.
and that was backed up today with another really strong day.
Okay.
So I'm almost ready to even say that Dantzler is already anointed, one of those starting CB spots. And then you're not going to not start Peterson. So unless they move him to nickel because Shannon Sullivan's not playing well and you put Booth out, I mean,
But
that's probably
Sullivan
what
is
I would
supposedly
do.
having a
But
good camp, according
yeah,
to
exactly.
Peterson on his podcast.
Well, there you go. Exactly. So, and you know what? That's okay. Let's have a plethora. Let's rotate them in and out too as needed. Like, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as we've learned, there's no shortage of cornerback depth as it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. So
Well, and we need quality depth, and that is a good thing. Too Evil to Hope just posted up Wyatt Davis is a complete bust, huh? Now, come to think of it,
Well,
all of our 2021 third round picks are busts.
let's make this quick, Ryan.
Yeah, we'll try to make it quick. Number one, they're third round picks, so we can't expect like you're not a bust as a third round pick. Like at best, there's like a 20% chance that they're good at being a
Yeah,
third
but a
round
third
pick.
round
So
pick is expected to contribute.
maybe, yeah, but again, it's still a huge like there's a huge failure rate for third rounders and below.
Oh, I agree there.
Yeah, so like you're you know from a Wyatt Davis standpoint, he fell for a reason. I said that on the show after the draft last year. I said, you know what, I'm excited about this pick. He's been good in college, but he fell for a reason, and he's a third round pick. Let's not get our hopes up. What's coming to fruition is I was right. Like we shouldn't have got our hopes up. Chaz Surratt apparently made a good play today. One good play that I heard on Twitter. So who knows? Maybe he's figuring it out. And who do we else do we have? Patrick Jones. I think he was listed as a backup, right? A second stringer. So I mean, again, as a third round pick, what more are you expecting? I thought Janarius Robinson would, pick up his pace and start maybe contributing a little bit more as a fourth round pick. And it looks like he's in the third string spot. So again, all these guys, they're going to get live game reps on Sunday. The ballers will ball out and separate themselves as needed. So
because you ended your thought on Sunday's game, I'm going to transition to that, and then we'll loop around to some other stuff we had coming in the show today. But you talked about the game Sunday. It's the first preseason game of the season, and Kevin O'Connell, by the way, has a tall task to stand up to Mike Zimmer's preseason record. It was quite high for Mike Zimmer. He rarely lost in the preseason, so we'll see if Kevin O'Connell can continue that. But it's the first preseason game. Now there's only 3 instead of 4, so it's kind of shifted how it goes. But what should we watch for in this first preseason game? And additionally, who are you watching for in this first preseason game?
Yeah, I want to see the rookies. I want to see the second year rookies. So is what I'm calling them. All those rookies that didn't get a chance to play last year because they were in, either just not good or in Zimmer's doghouse, one of the two. I that's what I'm excited for. I want to like obviously we're a very top heavy team. We know what to expect from the offense in terms of the receiver room. The obviously we have competition as we basically just alluded to earlier in the show, competition at receivers. So it'll be fun to see that play out. The third or fourth running back spot play out with Ty Chandler and Wangu and whatnot. But we know what to expect from like the starters. So it's really more about depth. What are we going to see from these rookies who are going to hopefully set up the set the stage for their careers of, oh, we're going to be a strong contributor on the second team. We're going to be a strong special teams player, or we're going to be, fighting for that starter spot. So obviously I want to see Booth. That was my dude in the draft. I was super excited about him. I want to see Asamoah, obviously. I was going to wear the shirt I had, but I wore it yesterday, so I didn't want to wear a dirty shirt on the show. Obviously, all the rookies. I mean, all the rookies. I was excited about most of the guys. So I want to see those guys play out. I want to see what we have in some of those guys that we just talked about from last year, the Janarius Robinsons, Patrick Jones. I don't think we're going to see Wyatt Davis, which is okay. And like Chad Surratt. Let's see where those guys are at. Have they gotten better? Can they contribute?
We got a couple questions in the chat. Aaron asks, how's the Minnesota Gopher defensive end looking? I forget his name. I don't think I've heard anything from him thus far.
Yeah, on the depth chart, I think he's like fourth string, third or fourth string. So, but again, to be expected. From what I hear, he was pretty raw coming out, and he had a lot of work to do on the technique. So likely a practice squad guy, but again, not a bad rap for what was he, a 6th-round pick, and with a relatively raw, but a lot of tools to work with. So excited to kind of see his development over the next few weeks, and then if he makes a practice squad, maybe we'll see him compete for a spot next year.
Yeah. I just closed the link, but
they have him listed as a defensive end.
Do you have the link up, Dave?
Yeah, I've got the story
up. Nicholas asks, where's Wanham in the rankings? DJ Wanham.
DJ Wanham, outside linebackers. He and Patrick Jones are the primary backups.
Okay. And then we got one other question, and then we can go back to the preseason game on Sunday. But would you guys be mad if Kevin O'Connell played all the starters for the first half of the third preseason game? I don't know, man. I mean, it's different now.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a precedent, but these guys need to like get hit. Like we were watching that Detroit Lions Hard Knocks last night. I don't know if you guys watched it. There's data, like as Dan Campbell had said, there's data to prove that if you go into the season without like getting hit and being hit and all of that, there's a higher risk for injuries. So we need to get these starters some live game reps and significant.
If you're not hit?
Yeah, if you're not
like if you're not hit in the preseason or in like training camp and you go into the season and your first hit is coming at a live game action rep, much higher risk for injury. So like they need to get knocked around a little bit. So I mean, obviously you don't want your quarterback getting hit ever, but all these other guys are going to be carrying the ball and the tacklers themselves, they do need to get some live reps. So I don't know if a half of the third preseason game that might be overkill for it being the last preseason game, but they also get a week off between the preseason game and the final and the regular season. So I mean, I'm sure it'd be fine. I wouldn't be upset about it.
Well, do we see any of the starters this Sunday?
Yeah, so that was going to be my thing. I feel like if I remember last season, and granted, Zimmer and Kevin O'Connell are going to have very different views on how they want to handle preseason, but I believe because we played the Chiefs last year in their first preseason game, and Zim had the starters out for at least 2 to 3 series, if I remember. It was a solid first quarter. I think one of them was a 3-and-out, so obviously that probably indicated an additional series. But I feel like all you've done really is just eliminated one. I mean, it's clear you've eliminated one of the preseason games. So I think we'll see 2 to 3 series of the starters on Sunday. I think you'll see the first half come in game 2. And then I don't think you see him play in game 3. I really don't. I think
Yeah.
that's really the time to see just the rookies cut days, a week after that. So I think that's the structure of how it will go.
And
Because really
I'm totally cool with that. That seems like a great idea to me.
because
You
when it
got to
was 4
remember,
preseason games, they only played one drive in the first game, typically, right? The
right?
starters.
And
So,
yeah, and then a good chunk of the starters, not all the starters, but a good chunk comes out. And
hmm
you may see that Sunday. You got to remember, even though there's 3 preseason games, the coaches have sort of figured a way to get that 4th preseason game worth of work. And that'll happen next Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, when San Francisco comes in and they do
Right.
the
that's
joint
true. Yep.
practices. Those practices, there will be live periods where they're getting the hitting. And
Yeah.
most likely those will be ones on ones, right, for the teams because they want to get them tuned up. And then come game 2, we get very little starters and then a ton of rookies, right, or a
Yeah.
ton of the rest of the roster. And then game 3, if O'Connell does what they did in LA, game 3, you're barely going to see any starters, and it's going to be all everybody else trying to make a roster.
But
And
we got
I
to
don't.
see those guys.
it's
Yeah.
that, the 2 days of San Francisco and the Vikings practicing together where all the major ones stuff is taking
Sure.
place.
I don't think we see any starters in game 3. I really don't. I,
And
I think
I'm happy with that too, honestly, as long as they're getting some good reps in game 2. Like they just need to have real game, live action, um, more than just a series, right? Like they need to go and get knocked around a little bit, especially those linemen.
yeah.
And
Oh,
before,
especially.
like I said, before the regular season starts. But we really need to use the rest of that to fill out the roster because obviously, as I said earlier, the top of the rosters were good. Like we probably know most of the starters already. A few guys
Yeah.
battling for certain spots, but for the most part, say 90% of the starters are defined. So now
Yeah.
it's like we just need to figure out who's going to be those backups, who's going to give us the best chance if some of those starters go down.
Mhm.
100%.
Jarrell had put in there, Skull from Jersey. Welcome, Jarrell. We have 2 stud tackles and we have 2 stud pass rushers. I
Dude,
agree. And I think we're
Jarrell,
going to be greatly surprised from the interior pass rush when we're
yes.
talking Tomlinson and Watts and Phillips plug in the middle. I think
Well,
we're going to be happy with that.
and Jarrell leads me right to our next point here, because we had it in here. We've heard it all training camp long, all training camp long. Every interview you hear, this name pops up, and it's Christian Darrisaw. Um, we heard, was it O'Connell yesterday, praising him? We've heard Albert Breer praising him, comparing him to a Trent Williams.
Which is
Um,
go to a future Hall of Famer. And
uh,
that's setting the
yeah,
bar super, super high.
we've heard Brian O'Neill talk about him on a K-Fan interview not too long ago, where he was asked, this isn't direct quote, but he was essentially asked, what do you think about Christian Darrisaw and how he did last year? And he goes, well, let's put it into perspective on my rookie year. O'Neill was like, in my rookie year, I wasn't hurt, and I was thrust into the starting right tackle job in week 2 versus the Packers and took it over from there. And I had struggles and, kept learning. Christian Darrisaw was injured all of
Off
his rookie
season last year.
campaign.
Yeah.
And then the second he was healthy, he was out on the field and he still played that way. So now he's got a full off season, fully healthy. And like we mentioned, people are comparing him to Trent Williams, which ironically we almost traded for a couple years back, allegedly. So, Ryan, are you buying into the hype of Christian Darrisaw?
Well, here's the thing. I feel very vindicated right now because Darrisaw was my guy. I actually had him as if we can go back to the shows from last draft. I had Darrisaw as my offensive tackle too, behind Penny Sewell, and I said he was better than Rashawn Slater. Again, Slater played amazing last year, so I'm not going to set Darrisaw on that
I'll go
pedestal
find
at the
those for you,
moment.
by the way. Not right now,
I,
but I'll
I
find them
have it
for
out
you.
there. It's out there. I was a huge Darrisaw guy. I said he might even be the best tackle from this draft, but let's let it play out. And then, of course, last year happened. I was a little disappointed. I was actually going to start eating crow a little, not because he was awful, but because he wasn't as high as I thought he was going to be. Obviously, a lot of it had to do with the injuries. So the fact that they're coming out right now saying, wow, look at this kid, to loads of potential. Obviously,
Yeah.
he's got to put up or shut up, right? But like in in just the hype, it's making me feel a little vindicated that what I saw on tape, what I saw out of that kid at Virginia Tech, I was right on with my evaluation. So I've been bought into the hype. I never really lost it outside of the fact that he was injured, and I felt a little disappointed that we didn't get to see it last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Jarrell had thrown in a comment here. I wanted a quick address. He said he thinks Evans can play nickel for us with Cam and Pat P. You Sullivan, Boyd, and Hand as depth. He's not even mentioning Andrew Booth. Andrew Booth probably going to be our highest ceiling at the cornerback position. Wasn't listed there, Jarrell. So we got to, probably Hand's going to be out and Booth inserted in there. Have that opportunity for that rotation to come between Pat P, Cam, and Booth.
Dave, I'll give you a chance because I know you like your offensive linemen. Are you with Ryan on this? Are you all in on a Christian Darrisaw? I don't know.
Being a top 10
maybe?
left tackle in the league?
Yeah.
He's going to be top 15.
Top 15? Dave, aim higher, man. Let's buy in.
He's
this
only
is
in
Vikings
his
Happy
second.
Hour. We are
he's
optimistic
only in his
here.
second season, and if you want to learn more about how linemen progress, this Sunday in the pregame show of Two Old Bloggers, because we're going to be on Sunday because Darren's on vacation. For Theme 3, we're going to talk about offensive linemen, my favorite subject, and their progression. And when does an offensive lineman reach their peak? When do they get it and, top out per the stats that PFF has drawn back over years? We're going to talk about it on Sunday. But guaranteed, he is going to be one of the better. If not, I'll give him 15. If he's a top 15 left tackle, we're happier and all get out. Could he be top 10, top 5? Yes.
Oh, he's going to be top 10 for sure. Top 10 for sure.
I think he can too, yeah.
But we're going to talk about that Sunday, just as a teaser.
Wow. All right. Well, let's keep moving on to another player that has gained a lot of hype and a position that has jaded Vikings fans for many, many years, and that's the kicker position and Greg Joseph. So, again, another player that is getting a lot of hype this season. Kevin O'Connell came out and pretty much said, like, yeah, when I hear him hit the ball, I know it's going in. The special teams coordinator's like, oh, he's got it. I don't know if fans have fully bought into this. I don't know if I myself have fully bought into this, given all the PTSD from prior seasons. But Ryan, do you think Greg Joseph is legit? Was it just a coaching change?
Well, I mean, he was good last year even. I mean, obviously, I know he missed the Arizona kick that lost us the game, but, like, I mean, he had a solid year last year, like above
You mean the one that
average
missed us the playoffs?
Yes,
joking.
yes. But like above average player or play from the kicker last year compared to what we're used to, I should say. The one vote of confidence I had was the fact
Get rid of
that
that comment, Dave. Get rid of that comment. Don't
um,
let Ryan see it.
yeah, we should have had Creed Humphrey. I know we should have had Creed Humphrey. Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. So the where I felt comfortable with Greg Joseph going into this offseason was the fact that did cut our other kicker that we brought into camp quite early into camp. I mean, he didn't even make it into. I don't think he even made it to camp. He literally got cut before training camp.
Right.
Who was that kicker?
Gabe Burkett, who's now on the Packers, former Oklahoma kicker. Oklahoma kicker.
Carry on.
No, don't worry. No, he'll still have a good career, and we'll regret cutting him like we cut Dan Carlson. But yeah,
Dan
I mean,
Carlson.
so
that's who you're
Daniel
comparing
Carlson.
him to?
No, I'm just saying we regret cutting him. He's one of the top 2 kickers in the league, probably.
Remember this, Dave.
But the fact that we felt comfortable cutting this kick, Gabe Burkett, so early into the off-season program, that because Greg was kicking so well, and I think Burkett wasn't, but the fact that Greg was kicking so well that they felt comfortable with that gave me just a sigh of relief, so to speak, from the position that they felt very confident going into training camp that we have our guy. And he played well last year. He had some really big kicks last year, obviously missed a couple. Everything from that night practice the other night, what did he go, like 5 for 5 and hit a 60-yarder to end the
7 for
night?
8.
7 for 8, okay, yeah. And then hit a 60-yarder to end the night or something like that. So,
and he's
that's
hit
awesome.
multiple high 50s, 60-yard field goals. And that was my one knock on Joseph, is I didn't think he had the leg. But he's obviously proved that wrong. And if he can go out there and hit 55 regularly, oh yeah, buddy. Of course, I want the offense to go down and score 6 and not have to rely on Greg Joseph to score field goals. But I'm glad we have him.
But like having a guy you have confidence in, to only need, like in the Lions game last year, where we needed to get in field goal position and have maybe confidence that just like Patrick Mahomes did last year to tie that AFC Championship game up, we just need to get to the 35, and Butker is going to kick us to overtime, right? Like if we can have that confidence that the Chiefs have in Butker, that the Ravens have in Tucker. That's what we need, and apparently the coaching staff has that right now in him.
Yeah, Dave, you're all in too.
Yeah, no, I'm sure as well as he's kicking now, he'll kick great during the season, and then we'll taste the miss in the playoffs. But
God damn it, Dave,
we're scarred. We're scarred over the history of being Vikings fans. But he is the best kicker we've had in a long time.
I'm knocking on wood right now because the other week when we were on this show, not with Eric, but the week prior, you also said that we were going to go 8-1 to be an equal 500.
That's been my shtick since the end of the season, and they came out with the initial line of wins.
I just hate what you're putting on this team, Dave. The negative energy.
Hey,
it's killing me.
If I go pessimistic or glass half full stuff at 500, and we end up 500, it's like, yeah, see, that's what I figured. If we end up with 12 wins, win the division, 13 wins, 14 wins, secure home field playoff or home field advantage during the playoffs, that's gravy. Right? It's just
wait
a way
till
to
we
view
start
life
doing predictions each week.
It's just a way to view life after all these decades of disappointment.
Yeah, you've lived through it all. So, 2 more topics before we close here. Miles mentioned last week, which, by the way, if you're tuning in or here right now, thank you for all the comments, being active in the chat. We really appreciate it. Miles last week before the show suggested throughout training camp we do a rookie roundup segment, just highlighting a rookie or rookies that have been doing well in training camp, or not doing well, I guess you could do it that way as well. So for this segment, I'm actually kind of going to defer to Mary's question a while back, but it was about Lewis Seen, and she asked if he had been a disappointment. And I'll defer to Ryan on this because I feel like he's a little bit more plugged in than I am. But um, I don't think he's been a disappointment. I think he's actually kind of stood out, but they're still waiting. I think they're kind of like feeding him slowly, and maybe he'll progress to be very exciting. But Ryan, why don't you give your thoughts on Lewis Seen for the rookie roundup segment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like Lewis Seen. I like what I've seen from Lewis Seen in the training camp, from what clips I've seen, as well as what I'm reading online. Again, I haven't made my way down there, so I'm not seeing all this stuff live. So it's a little bit more difficult for me to truly give an assessment. But everything I'm reading and everything I'm seeing is he's picking up the offense or the defense. He's making it challenging for the offense.
We all know to be
Um,
picking off the offense.
yeah, there you go. And he is, I just hear he's dynamic, sideline to sideline, like covers ground like no other. One clip came out where he kind of went up and high pointed the ball with the receiver, knocked it down, and gave him the Dikembe
Mm-hmm.
Mutombo, no, no,
Yep.
no, and not to stray away from scene, but like him and Andrew Booth, our two first picks that we grabbed, they're both just dogs. They're
Yeah.
chirping, they're talking shit. They are ensuring that the defense is going to have some attitude on the back end, and because again, we have Zadarius Smith, he's going to have some attitude. I hear Harrison Phillips can talk the talk a little bit as well. Daniel Hunter's always kind of been a quiet guy. I don't think he chirps a lot. Kendricks doesn't chirp a lot. Smith doesn't chirp a lot. So it's going to be a breath of fresh air to get some defensive players who, are going to maybe get in the heads of these opposing offensive talent that's going against us. So really excited to see that dog mentality from Scene and Booth so early on in their careers.
And if you are somehow new to Vikings Happy Hour, if there's one trait that Ryan Ortega likes with his rookies or players in general, he likes the dog mentality. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
there's no doubt that he is rooting
Especially from my
for Lewis.
cornerbacks. Especially from my cornerbacks.
Yep.
If you are a
Yep.
cornerback that's going to chirp, oh God, that's the best. I'm like actually, I've been following a little bit with the Carolina Panthers as well, just because Baker's there, and there's just a lot of talk between apparently just chirping from Dante Jackson and Baker all the time, and like that's what football is to me. Like hearing that and having like pushing each other, and then we watched Hard Knocks last night, and you got Aaron Glenn the coach and Deuce Staley the coach, and the whole time
Yeah.
those two offense and defense are going at it, they're just chirping each other the whole time. Like that's what football is to me, and I love seeing it, and I love that Booth and Scene are bringing that to the table for us. And Jefferson's doing it too. You know it.
Yeah. Yep. Um, Last topic of the night, and Dave, I think he is asking about your art, so I'll give you a chance to speak here when we close, um, to talk about what you're potentially working on. But we're only a few days away from the first preseason game. It feels real now. Um, and seeing Kevin O'Connell out there on the night practice the other night, speaking to the fans, speaking to his team. This isn't a slight to Zim at all. Don't get this construed. Don't take my words out of context. Uh, but O'Connell seems composed and confident walking onto that field with this roster, almost like he somehow fleeced somebody in a trade and is just like, oh, wait for what I have in store for you this season.
So you're saying
Saying,
Zimmer was trash, that had no confidence walking in with his team?
I, I think your mic got muted there. But anyway, uh, he's saying all the right things, and it's easy to, right? He's never had a game with this team. We've never crucified him after a loss. But I don't know, man. There's something about this guy where if you're not all in on Kevin O'Connell at this point, like, get the fuck off the bandwagon. Like, we're in now. We got elite offensive talent. I think the defense has to improve. And I still don't trust that the Packers are going to be that good. I still don't. Like, losing Devontae is huge. Losing Devontae and knowing how much Aaron Rodgers is in his mind, I think losing Nathaniel Hackett is going to be bigger than people think, especially early on in the season. So, with that being said, Ryan, help me fuel this flame and tell me why you're excited about Kevin O'Connell.
I mean, exactly what you just said, honestly. Like, he brings, and actually, I was listening today, I was listening to Justin Jefferson on NFL Network. Jefferson. On NFL Network, talking about the just the change in, like, I think Jarrell said it. There's just more swag to the team. Like, Zim brought this kind of more hard nose, no nonsense. This is football business to the game, and O'Connell's allowing them to be themselves a little bit more, and that allows the team to play a little looser, a little bit more fun, which then again kind of fuels the confidence, which fuels, hopefully momentum, and we can kind of build from there. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a Super Bowl winning team, but I think we're going to surprise a lot of people this year. And to your point around the Packers, not only they are going to get better on defense and with getting some players back on defense, but yeah, I mean, when your best receiver is Allen Lazard, and no shade at him, like he's a fine receiver, but like you don't have an elite receiver, and again, this is what Aaron Rodgers is known to do, though. So I don't want us to like sit here and sit on a pedestal saying, oh, well, he doesn't have any tools. He made, I'm not going to sit here and say he made Devontae Adams, because he's obviously a very good receiver, but he's going to make receivers look a lot better than they actually are. And that's evident by all the receivers that have left him throwing him the football, and they weren't nearly as good as they used to be. And that could be the Packers getting rid of him at the right time. But I think a lot of it has to do with just the arm talent and the confidence the receiver has in the quarterback. So I still think they're going to be a formidable opponent. I don't think that week one is going to be a cakewalk for us, but I don't think that I think that they should be thinking the same about us. Like,
yes,
yeah, we were 8-9 last year, but we lost a lot of games by one score in the last minute. We have a new offensive coach who's going to allow our offense to hopefully stay pedal to the metal. We have a new and that's what O'Connell brings to the table, right? And we have it again, and we were talking about this in the group chat. Like, our defense, yeah, we lost Zimmer, and Zimmer is a phenomenal play caller from a defensive perspective.
He is.
It's not like we're getting, but we're not getting some unknown dude. Like when we brought in who was our offense coordinator last year again? Kubiak, Clint.
Yeah,
when we brought Clint Kubiak, yeah, like we didn't have any confidence in the guy because we've never seen him do what he's done. Ed Donatel has managed, and I know he wasn't always play calling, but he has put together game plans and managed very good defenses for the Bears when they used to like be really tough for us to get by, and for the Broncos the last couple of years. So I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to have this huge step back on defense, because one, we can't step back any further than last year's defense, but two, there's some exciting rookies and a good play caller or a good defensive mind to couple with that.
Yeah. Dave, are you all in on Kevin O'Connell? You've seen a lot of head coaches in your lifetime.
I am, and it goes in cycles. I love what Kevin O'Connell's doing. I love the youth. I love the vigor. What he's bringing, the swag, especially the offensive side. It is needed. Mike Zimmer wore off. What Mike Zimmer brought was needed at the time. We come off of 2014, and our defense was horrible. They needed to build up the defense. Zimmer did that. He gave them purpose. He gave them drive. They became the number one defense in the NFL. You can't beat that. Well, that wore off, and costs and stuff, and it all changed, and it got tiresome, and they're gone, right? Zimmer and Spielman both are gone. So now they tend to, when you have an authoritarian, go to a player's coach, and then you'll flip back, and it goes back and forth. It just works that way.
Yeah. Yep.
I like what he's bringing. I think Kevin O'Connell is smart. I think he's quite intelligent. I think what he's doing and the whole aspect he and Kwesi work together is coming from sort of a different angle that other coaches and front offices have tried.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be successful. Hopefully it's extremely successful. Hopefully we're doing talking about a parade in end of February next year. But I think it's good.
Nice.
I'm hyped for the season. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too.
Worst we're going to do is 8-1.
8-1.
Damn it, Dave.
He speaks so well though too, right? Like when you listen to him in an interview, like like for the even the non-football person, like I'm not a hardcore football person. Like I love football and I know it very well, but I'm not in the building, right? He can break it down in an interview so well where it's like, oh, I totally understand what he's trying to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And and coaches don't usually do that. So I feel like he really brings this different dynamic of trust and energy and just thorough and thoughtfulness and a very methodical approach to the coaching position. So
yeah, I am all in. In my bio it already says that I'm a Kevin O'Connell stan. So we are
Does that really?
We are in on. Of course it does. I am a Vikings stan, so whoever's leading this team, I'm going to back them. I don't care who it is.
Kevin Kwesi O'Connell stan. It really says it. It also says Ariana Grande stan. So I don't know if I should trust you on this one.
Hey,
did you like Taylor Swift?
Hey, we all have our music tastes, okay? If we can just put that off into a different episode, all right? I did think about the Vikings Happy Hour Twitter page changing that slogan to the longer the show goes, the more optimistic we get, because that's typically how it goes on these. Game changer 16's having a shot for you, Dave. So
that's Donnie, and thank you, Donnie. Appreciate it.
Man, I tell you what. Not only am I excited for Kevin O'Connell in this Vikings season, because the next time we meet, there will actually be a game played and we can talk about the game. But I'm excited for our rapid fire segment, and I'll work on that a little bit. But the over-unders in the predictions, man, it's all coming back, and football's here, guys.
What's
waited.
Also exciting is having the listeners active with their own opinions, throwing into this comment. It's a lot of fun to actually have a lot of the interactions and really build the momentum back up to this football season, because half of the joy I get out of doing the show is literally this comment bar on the side and seeing what people are saying and their opinions and
Absolutely.
stuff. So keep them coming, everyone. We really appreciate it. Make sure we're also commenting if you're watching this next day or podcasts. We read all that stuff, so we appreciate it.
We do read all of it. And in fact, you guys have responded to our request the past couple weeks about going to our YouTube channel and liking and subscribing. So if you could keep doing that, that would be awesome. Our goal is 4,000 subscribers by the end of this season. I feel like winning will make that happen quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Losing might not help as much, but still, we've gained a lot of followers in the last week. We're on our way upwards. So if you could please tell your friends, tell your family, make second, third accounts. I don't give a shit. Go over, like, subscribe.
It does help
follow.
pay some of the bills, yes.
Yes, exactly. So, great show. I appreciate you guys hopping on again. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my evening with my in-laws up here at the North Shore. But if you're listening to this right now, please come back next week as we do have a guest and a full squad from I think, a full squad. I haven't heard of anything. Um, Miles will be back. Me, Ryan, Dave, and special guest Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings will be here next Wednesday night. He'll be back out in LA with his full camera setup and fresh off a Vikings game. I don't want to say victory because I don't really know. It's preseason. Who cares about the ending of the game? But we'll have a lot to talk about next week. So come back then and join us for what's bound to be another eventful episode. Dave, you have to respond to some artwork questions and then fill the guests in on what's coming this week.
As far as the art, I have not worked on anything in a while, sort of been out of the rut. However, if you look at today's thumbnail for this show, you will see Osborne, Jefferson, and Thielen on there. Should I rework that into a 3 deep second evolution
100%. 100% yes.
piece of work?
Yep. Don't even finish the question. Do it.
Okay. I'll work on that.
And then I'll buy it. Then I'll buy it from you and put it in my basement.
Okay. Sounds good. And for the schedule of Climbing the Pocket broadcast, instead of yesterday, which they were supposed to be, they've got moved to Thursday because Flip's work got in the way, unfortunately. We have Viking hot takes after their long sabbatical are finally returning to the airwaves. They will be on tomorrow night. I'm going to have a new roll-in. We're going to do that. Again, it's 6 questions, 20 minutes, fastest, quickest hitting Vikings evening show, talking about what there is with, the great Flip Mozzie and Eric Thompson of Daily Norseman. 2 old bloggers will not be on Saturday. Like I said, Darren's on vacation. He's in Nova Scotia. Today he had lobster celebrating from up there. He showed a picture of about, I think it was 6 or 7 or 8 of them they'd cooked up. Oh, God, it didn't look good. He's having a good time with his family. However, he will be here Sunday with us, and we're going to go live approximately a little over an hour prior to the game. We're going to go over our 3 themes. First theme is going to be looking at that game. We're going to look at the Raiders game. What do we expect? Do we expect the starters to start? How many series do they play? What are we expecting to see of the rookies, etc.? I'm going to go deep diving the rest of this week into the Raiders, see what's coming up with them, right? What rookies are they going to be looking at? I don't expect to see a lot of Carr and a lot of Cousins, but we're going to see a lot of other stuff, and we want to see the battle. It's preseason. We want to see these guys fight to make the teams, right? Whether it be the Raiders or the Vikings. We both want to see that. And it's going to be in the new stadium there. I think it's the first time the Vikings have played in that stadium, so it should be fun to see.
Let's do it.
Then, at the 2-minute mark left in the game, we will have the first post-game show, the final score for Climbing the Pocket. We will go live at the 2-minute mark left in the game, and we will go on from there. I will be there. I'm not sure how many of the other regulars, Matt, is going to be there, but we will be there. We'll talk about what we've seen because it should be an interesting game to digest and see who did well. And then we start all over again on Monday.
We're starting the post game on Sunday.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I'll see if I can make it work. I'll let you know.
Okay. But that's Climbing the Pocket so far. We're ramping up. We're getting up to full regular season mode. Yeah. Show by show.
I'll be at the lake during the game, so I'm going to have to watch from my phone and hope that my in-laws do not care. Last time I did that, I drank like a whole bottle of scotch and I was hammered. So hopefully I don't repeat that performance.
We'll talk about that after the show.
Hit us, Dave.
What do we say?
Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.